Today we have a true rock star here. We have our good friend Dave Hill is in town.
Hello.
And his show was last night, and it was hilarious. If you guys don't know Dave Hill, you need to go find him on Instagram and all of the social medias and follow him.
Thank you.
One of my favorite comedians, and also a phenomenal guitar player.
Thank you. I don't know about phenomenal. Decent.
Phenomenal.
Decent.
Yes.
My therapist would have told me to just accept the compliment and not downgrade myself. So yeah, I'm phenomenal.
Yes. Nice. So first of all, how did you get into doing like comedy / like music? Because your show, I mean, I don't want to out too much of what your show is, but there's a ton of music.
Help I can get.
Carl was from here, was in your band last night.
Yeah, he played bass.
Yeah.
It's great.
And like really cool. I mean, again, you have to go see his show. If he's in your area, go see it. But like, what kind of got you into doing that? Because I feel like comedy and music, kind of connect a lot of the time, but I've never seen anybody do a comedy show with as much.
Yeah, well, I started playing in band, I still play in bands, and then I kind of accidentally went into comedy. I never planned to ever. And then a friend asked me he's like, oh, I run this show. Do you want to do something? I was like, okay. And so I started doing that, and then I kind of kept music separate, I think just out of my reverence for rock, honestly, because the stuff I was seeing people do, just on the shows that I was doing, not it's obviously amazing, like Tenacious D, Total Gods,
yes.
and buddies of mine that I've toured with. They, had been doing it for years, combining the two. And, there's Flight of the Conchords, and there's a lot of people that do an amazing job with it. But, when I was starting comedy and just figuring it out, there might be someone that was just playing, G chord, silly songs. And I was like, well, that doesn't feel like what I want to do. And then I started doing shows like my friend Tom Papa, he does this, and my friend Wesley Stace, and my friend Greg Barris. Greg and Tom are comedians, and Wesley's a musician. They would do these variety kind of shows with backing bands.
Okay.
And then so I started doing those shows, and then I'd be like, oh, I'll bring my guitar along. And then I started just doing my stand-up while, just kind of while I was ready, kind of throwing licks in between. And I think that was part of the thing is I was like, oh, it's not funny to be good. But then I was realized once you start playing at a certain level to where people don't believe you're doing, when you start playing, which you and I know is very easy, but to the average person's that's magic.
Yes.
And so I started to realize that was a really funny thing to do. And then because I was playing with these bands that I didn't rehearse with, I just was naturally berating them during the set, and that became part of the show.
Right.
So then it's just all kind of organically came together in that way, and there is a genuine laziness about it in that I only want to leave the house once. So I leave the house and I do my comedy show. I get to rip some solos.
Yeah.
I've gotten everything I want to do in front of an audience out of my system. I mean, I still play shows with my band, Valley Lodge, and so I still rock in a separate capacity, but yeah, it's just fun, and it's also, I love, as you do, gear. I'm a big fan, so it's just a major excuse to constantly be seeking out new gear, and I switch my pedal board all the time, truly to go like this is an amazing board right here in many ways, but it's also cool because there's a red pedal, purple pedal, green pedal, which is a key thing to look down and be like, that's fun to look at.
Right.
So I'm always changing the board based on I'll put a board together and be like, there's too much of this one color on the board. I need to swap out. So my sound will change from run of shows. I'll have totally different boards. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of want a pink pedal on the board this tour. It has nothing to do with the sound or the music.
Nice. Well, the way your show is, it also lends itself that you could have used anything you wanted last night because of the fact that you're just playing licks for a lot of it, or you're doing like, like a vamp jam, like impromptu thing. So like if you want to throw whatever effect you want, you can, because it doesn't matter how musical it is.
Yeah, it can
for
be
parts of it
absurd.
anyway.
And there's an element of, I think it's a compliment, but there's an element of chaos to my shows.
Yes.
And so nothing can really go wrong. Like if something goes wrong, it's fine. So
Yeah.
all by way of saying, sometimes I'll take my board out and I won't even look at what the knobs are set at.
Right.
And I'll
Just
be
step on them.
When I hit it, we'll see what this one's gonna do tonight.
Yeah, like the Bob Ross of happy accidents. Like
Yeah, you
everything
just
becomes a
go
happy
like,
accident.
oh, I didn't realize that was whatever, the speed on the flanger or whatever was set to all the way or whatever.
Yep. So I liked what you said about the fact that like, what you do, it kind of lends you to be able to collect like random pieces of gear because it's part of your job. So I've kind of gotten away with that with my wife by being like, when she says like, oh, you got another guitar, I'm like, well, work got another guitar. I just happened to use it at work.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you picked it and you did everything and went and got it. I'm like, well, yes, but it's for work.
Yeah.
It's
I'm right
it's a
there
burden
with
we
you.
bear.
I sort of, for a while I was trying to get, if someone's going to send me a guitar, which I can't suggest enough to anyone watching. If you want to send me a guitar, I'd be thrilled. But my girlfriend, I started like trying to be like, could you please send it on one of these Tuesday or Wednesday? Because I knew she wouldn't be home and I could sneak it in the house. But now it's like, it's off the rails and you can't predict. Stuff gets delayed and then I'm like a couple. I should shut up. But I was like, I just got a notice of FedEx was coming and I was like, I don't know what this is. And then I'm like, what? I had a feeling it might be. So I'm like, what is in this city? And I was like, oh fuck, this is a guitar company. And then I was like, I'm so sorry. Some packages are coming. I think they might be guitars. It's like, can you just please just let me deal with them? I promise I'll make them disappear. So, but she's amazing and very understanding. And but yeah, it's always, plus like when you have the comedy element of it, there's so many things that you can be like, well, kind of need this one because the floating tremolo is really funny. And you can't go do a show with one because you break a string, it's out of tune, so you have to have two. And it's not funny if I bring it has to be a different one.
Yeah.
So anyway, a million excuses for why more guitars.
My wife long ago decided that she wasn't going to get upset at me anymore about it, which is awesome. Actually, to be fair, I don't know if she ever really got upset. I think she just rolled her eyes.
Yeah, my girlfriend, she stubs her toes a lot on cases in the bedroom, and I try to. She's not made up any rules at all. Like I always hear people talking about, like, oh, my wife said like one in, one out. She's never. I made up a rule that there can be no, it was with the exception of the bedroom where there's cases along the walls, but like my rules in like the living room and stuff, you can't have more than one guitar. You can't turn it into like a man cavey guitar centered environment.
Right.
So I'll just have one.
I made up a rule for myself that people have said, like, did your wife make up this rule? And I'm like, no, I just decided that I have enough guitars. I still want all of the guitars.
Yeah.
Like all of them that exist everywhere I would have if I could. But I decided, okay, I have to, like if I'm going to get something else that is the same type of thing as something else I have, then something has to go just for space. So
yeah, totally. But then like, I mean, there's I have so many friends who are just enablers. Like I got this one guitar. Well, I'll tell you, as I was telling you before, I got this Charvel Warren DeMartini Swords guitar, which my inner child has required for many years. And I finally, I mean, I have a lot of guitars like that. Like I saw the Cult on Love Tour,
Yep.
and because I'm very old, and I remember, and I was only 2 years old, but I remember Billy Duffy coming out with the White Falcon, and it was like from the Baldwin area, or like with the wire trim.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, that, and then I can't remember the guitar player from Bow Wow Wow. It might have even been the actual same guitar, I think. I'm not sure. He may have sold it to him. But he played that in I Want Candy. All by way of saying, like, I was like, I will have that guitar one day.
Right.
And then a dozen years ago in Main Drag in Brooklyn, they had one on the wall, and I was like, what's up with that? It was the exact, but it was a Japanese one.
Yeah.
But so I was like, oh, this is on consignment. Some kid's grandmother bought it for him, and it was in there. It was cheap already, and I made some like insane lowball offer, and they called the kid, and he was like, yeah, so
Nice.
I got it. I don't want to say what I got it for because someone will
shoot
come
you
to my house.
Yeah, and steal it.
But anyway, I forget. So I'm sorry. You're gonna have to edit so much of this.
None of
This
it.
is the problem with talking to me because I don't finish the sentence, and I jump all over. But so all by way of saying, I thought the responsible thing to do once I got the Charvel, the Warren DeMartini. I was talking to my friend. I was like, I should get rid of my Jackson Soloist. And he's like, that's great. What's wrong with you? No, you can't. You can't get rid of that?
Yeah.
Like two friends like, no, you'd know.
Yep.
So anyway, I don't get rid of many.
No, I only started in the last couple of years where I had stuff that I was like, this isn't really collectible. It's not sentimental. It's not something that like I really wanted. It was more of a like utility thing where like I had an American Ultra Strat that I had bought for Sean to use in some videos, and Sean was done with it, and I'm like, it just sits in a case on a shelf and never gets played. I'm like, I don't need that. I have other Strats that are sentimental to me that I'm like, I'll keep those. So
I just sold a guitar for that exact same thing. I was like, I have two other versions of. I don't want to say what it was, so as to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I have two others of these, and then I'm like, I played this for about 10 minutes, and then I sold it, and then I took it out of the case. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, this is fucking great. I should have sold this.
Yeah. Yeah, I have had those times in the past where I sold something and then I was like, why did I sell that? Like I had that with I have this amp. It's the Marshall / AFD 100.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I had one in like the 2010, somewhere around there. And then when I got involved with Dan at Revv, I sold it because I found out, like I had bought it for $1,200. I found out they were worth like $4,000. So I sold it. And then right after I sold it, I was like, why did I sell it? I didn't need money at the time. I was just like, oh, it's worth more and I can make money on it. And then I waited and waited until I got one in an auction a few years ago. And I was like, I want that amp back. So then I ended up buying it back. And that's normally how that goes for me. But I find guitar players fit into like two different categories when it comes to gear. Like there's guitar players who view all of their, any of their gear as tools, right? So they'll have a Strat style guitar, they'll have a Les Paul style guitar, a Tele, baritone, whatever. And it's, they all have sentimental attachment to a specific instrument maybe, but for the most part, they don't care about owning more of them. They're like, no, this is my tool and this is my Strat. And then there's guitar players that just want everything.
Yeah.
And I just want everything.
Me too. And I know people who have the means of, if I may name drop, my dear friend Moby, for Electronics Moby, is a guy who could have 7 million guitars. And he's a great guitar player. Like you wouldn't think, given like that, but he's like totally ripping, can shred.
Cool.
And But then you go to his house, and I was like, you think he's gonna have like a fleet? And he's like, oh, I just used this Epiphone SG.
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't you don't even have a Gibson? He's like, no, I like this because you can go into any store and get one any time, and this is all I need. And I'm like, but why don't you have 700 guitars? You're a bazillion.
Yep. Yep. I've found that the kind of either more well-known or more like well-off professionals in our industry that I've met, like whether they're producers or players, there's more of them that you show up at their place and you're like, they're going to have 100 guitars. They're going to have a 59 Les Paul. They're going to have all this stuff. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. They just have, oh, I have this Strat. It's a 64, but it's because I got it in 66, and it's like, I've had it since then, and that's why I have it. And I'm like, oh, you don't have that because it's cool and vintage. You have that because it was your thing that you got when you started playing.
Yeah.
And you've just kept it. And, and they don't spend their money on gear, which is astronomical to me.
I'll tell you the thing I used to not have a lot of gear, and what kind of sparked me, I always wanted a lot of gear, but I lacked money. And
Yeah.
And then I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, I was back. I'm from Cleveland. Thank you. And so I went. I was home, and I went to my friend's house. A childhood friend. He and his dad both play guitar, and so I went to his dad's house, actually, his parents' house he grew up in. And his dad had just gotten a Strat, and he had just gotten an amp, and he's like, oh, I got this amp, this whatever amp, and I had it sent to my parents' house, so my wife wouldn't know that I bought it. And then the dad was like, this is my friend Kevin Karlik and his dad Frank Karlik. I don't know why I'm avoiding their names.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, this is, he bought a Strat. It's like, this is the first new guitar I've gotten in 40 years. And I was like, wait, why? Why did you wait 40 years? He's like, cause like I raised a family and I did all this stuff and just couldn't be buying guitars. And I'm going to my friend Kevin, I'm like, why'd you didn't want your wife to find out about that? Why? He's like, cause we have kids, we have to pay for stuff. And so I was like, okay, I have a girlfriend, but I'm not married, I don't have kids, and I don't know how my life's gonna change. I gotta start getting all the gear now. And I've just been like loading up ever since.
Nice.
Not loading up in like, I don't know, it goes in phases, like I'm not loaded by any stretch. But there was a period where I couldn't afford, now I can buy nicer things. And before I'd be like, that's cheap guitar, but it has sparkles. I better buy it sparkly.
Yeah.
So then I had a lot of the cheap sparkly guitars. And then I'm like, okay, now I can afford nicer guitars. And then I had this phase where I was like, that's the one. I'm going to buy this guitar, and then I'm done. And that's going to be my guitar. And it's the only guitar I'll ever play. And then you get it, and you're like, yep. 2 weeks later, you're like, that's the guitar I want. And then you get the next one. And I've given up on the idea that there's a one.
Yeah, for sure. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like when I played in a band, I had two nice guitars. I had a USA PV Wolfgang and an American Standard Stratocaster. And I always wanted a Paul Reed Smith. From the first day I saw one, I was like, oh, they look awesome.
Yeah, they're
I want
great
one.
guitars.
And it wasn't until I stopped playing in a band and had like a full-time like day job where all of a sudden I'm like, now I can afford to buy this Paul Reed Smith. Mm-hmm. So I ended up buying all of the gear that I had wanted when I was actually playing in a band.
Yeah.
And got it all at a point where like now I'll never play in a band again. Like not like where I'm trying to tour or trying to do anything. I'm like, so now I have all the things I wanted when I was trying. I'm like, and now most of them hang on the wall or sit in the case apart from, when we work here. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's funny how that works, and that essentially you're somewhat chasing, your like not childhood dreams, but like your younger dreams of like, I've always wanted that, so I'm going to get it now because now I can afford it.
Yeah. It's like I always say that like my inner 15-year-old is like so psyched.
Yeah.
But my grown man who lives with his girlfriend and is very concerned.
Nice.
Very,
Okay, I have one final question for you that is probably the most important gear question asked of anyone ever throughout all of history.
okay.
All right? So,
No, you shouldn't. No one should play a 7-string guitar. That's the answer. Was that the question?
it is now.
I don't even believe that. I don't even know why I said that.
I do, so I'm happy that you said it.
I mean, I personally wouldn't ever do it.
No.
I also don't think anyone should play a 5-string, any bass with more than 4 strings. Unless you're in like a salsa band and you gotta go, oh, on the low, then of course.
That's why it
But
was
that's
built.
the only reason
Yeah.
you should ever have more than 4 strings on your bass.
Nice. My question is, do pickguards belong on Les Pauls? I know, it's a really tough question.
For
With only one
generally,
right answer.
well, looking around the room, I think the clear answer is no. There's no point in having them. But Jimmy Page,
Yeah.
the god of most things, is he has pick guard. So, but no, they shouldn't have pick guards. I mean, clearly not.
And just
Slash
like
doesn't have pick guards.
no, Slash doesn't.
And he's doing all right.
I think that's probably why.
Yeah, the
Like-
lack of pick guard.
Yeah. Like Guns N' Roses wouldn't be what it is if there were pickguards on Les
Yeah,
Pauls.
they would be like just playing wing night somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think I need to get. I have a suite. What a lot of people say is the greatest Les Paul they've ever played, but I do only have one of them, to my knowledge. So the next one should not have a pick guard.
You can fix the one you have.
I could take. Yeah, I could. I could take it off, and yeah, maybe I should just do that. I mean, it would look cool.
You could join our team.
The-
I mean,
the no
not
pick-
everyone here is
team
on
no-
that team, but
team
team
no
no
pick
pickguard.
guard?
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
they don't really serve a purpose.
No. It's just a horrible piece of plastic.
And any guitar that comes into my possession will be damaged instantly to be completely destroyed resale value. So there's really truly any guitar. Like even this one, I think, what was the one you just handed me earlier? First thing I did was bang it against the chair. Not
Yeah.
intentionally, it's just what
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
So I should take the pick guard off.
There you have it, folks. He started out on the wrong team. And
I
we're
did.
slowly
I saw the
converting him.
light. I saw
Yes.
the light. I can't. As soon as I get home tonight, I'm ripping that pick guard off my Les Paul.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out today.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome. And yeah, go see Dave Hill. Go to all his social medias, everything. And yeah,
Thanks.
see you next time.
I don't know what that was.
It's perfect.
It's a new technique I came up with.